All right, here we are again. It's the Fitz and Franson Show. And today's an extra special episode. It is our first show where we are having one of our very own Pentek dealers on to join us and talk about what's going on in the concrete coating world, and more specifically what's going on in North Dakota and South Dakota. So we have Justin Plante with us. He's the owner of Epic Concrete Coatings. He's got 2 locations in the Fargo area and in the Sioux Falls area, and he's just doing great work. And so the focus of today's show is actually going to be about what it looks like to invest in your team, and what does it mean to have a culture of continuous improvement. And those of you in our network that have not met Justin, he is always asking the question, how can it be done better? And so he's most recently had Matt Fitzgerald out to his site to meet with his sales team and discuss how they can just improve things by a little bit here and there. So Justin, why don't you take a couple of minutes to just talk about what's going on in your world, and maybe give a little bit of background to previous business experience, how long you've been a dealer with Pentek, and so on.
Yeah, no problem. Well, thanks guys for having me on. Justin Plante, like they said, we began our journey with Pentek. That was the first product that we ever sold. We started in October of 2018. So we've been all hands on deck here. We currently run 4 trailers here. I have 1 sales member in Fargo, training in another one, and then about a year and a half ago we opened up our 2nd location in Sioux Falls. So 1 full-time sales member there. We just went to our 2nd crew this year, so it's been great. I personally reside in Fargo, North Dakota. My wife Nicolette, and then I have twin girls that are 8 months and a 3-year-old boy. So busy home life, busy work life, but wouldn't change it for the world. So
yeah, that's awesome. 2018, you're a veteran. You've seen a thing or two.
Yeah, we've been around a bit. I think probably one of the more unique things about where we're from is obviously it's probably one of the colder states that you get in the United States. So a little bit of seasonality with it, but we spent the last few years battling that, figuring out how to pre-sale work, number 1. Number 2 is trying to see how we can push off some of our commercial projects and things like that to the winter, just to try to minimize how many people we got to lay off in the winter. So luckily in the last 2 years in our Fargo office, we haven't had to lay off any of our installers. We've had a pretty good load of commercial work that we've brought into the winter, and then our sales team also keeps rolling through the winter with pre-selling projects for when the snow melts. So it's been great.
Yeah, and in the Dakotas, you don't know when the snow will melt.
Yeah, I would say there's definitely more winter than there is summer.
Yep, yeah.
I think it just melted off. I'm here in July. There's still a couple spots out there. I think you can find it.
Yeah, that's great. So Powerful Media has worked with Justin. This is our 2nd go around. We worked together a little over a year ago, and Justin's always asking how can I do things a little bit better, and he reached out to us and he said, hey, I think I have a pretty good handle on things. I'd like you guys to take it over for a while and see what's different. And last year we realized Justin had a pretty good handle on things, and Powerful came in and did what we do, and we both kind of came to the same conclusion that Justin understood marketing best practices for social media, and he was already doing great work. And then just a couple of months ago we stepped back in, and one of the things that Powerful's doing for you is freeing up some space for you and your team members. So one of the things that we love to do is kind of be an FTE for our customers that they don't really have to manage. When you look at payroll and you go, I don't have to hire, train, I don't have to pay vacation, you just show up and work, 365 days a year almost for me. That sounds like a win. So it's been great to work with you in both your locations and just brainstorming with you, because you're always so inquisitive. So today we're going to kind of talk about what that looks like. And so for you, even though Epic Concrete Coatings does things pretty well, you have this philosophy that you can always get better. So kind of tell us about that mindset, if you could.
Yeah, one thing with being with Fitz this week, actually we just went over a little bit this morning, is that, we talk investment versus price, right? A lot of people think of investment versus price. And I mean, when we're out there selling to our customers, we're selling it as an investment, not necessarily a price, right? So I think that's a great philosophy. And I think if that's how we're selling our product, I don't think that we can look at our sales team any different, right? I think when it comes to these sorts of trainings, we just can't be too prideful in bringing outside people in, personnel to help our teams, just to help gain a new perspective, right? So I've always believed in training and investing in our team. I don't necessarily look at it as a price of that day or those couple days of training. How is it going to perpetuate with our team after the training's done? So.
Yeah, I will tell you, Jay, having been here for a couple days now with Justin and the team, it's not just. I don't think it's just Justin's mindset. It's a cultural thing in his building for sure. It's been a ton of fun working with their guys and working with Justin, and man, that's the type of owner that we definitely love to work with as well too. Just the hunger to get a little bit better, and even if it's 1% better, the difference that can make. Justin and I were talking about that a little bit yesterday about percentages and what 1% versus no percent does for you. And he's not passively waiting for that to happen. He's actively going out and getting it. And the rest of the team marches to the same sheet of music there for sure.
Yeah, and I just think that's important too. We make sure that they know it's important that when we bring somebody out to help us with training, that everybody's buying into that, right? That's the biggest thing too, is that we have to, like Matt says, you got to get a few nuggets out of there. We're not going to flip the whole sales regimen upside down after it leaves, but if we can make some tweaks and things like that, that we can implement moving forward, and we can get a little bit better. It's the most important thing we can do on the sales side for sure.
Yeah. Do you have, or I would say, how do you develop this continuous improvement philosophy? Matt touched on, it's not just you. Since 2018, have you noticed something that you've done as the owner that has instilled it in the culture?
I wouldn't say necessarily just me as an owner. One thing I told Fitz at dinner the other night, phrase that my dad always told me, he always said, let the shoemaker make the shoe, right? So I've always believed in that. I think, just taking your pride out of it a little bit when it comes to something like that. But I mean, everybody's trying to get better, right? That's why we have a business. I think a lot of it for me is a growing family, right? I want to have more free time. If I want to have more free time, at the end of the day, that means we got to do a little bit more work. And we can, that can afford us the opportunity to bring people like Powerful, people like Fitz in, that we can help our team. And with bringing Powerful in especially, my wife's wanted to spin my neck. I know that for the last few years because I was answering Facebook after hours. So from 5 till 11 at night. Once the twins came, I was like, okay, I can't be doing this that much anymore. Weekends, and it's great that you guys work around people's schedule like that, whether you're doing full-time white glove service or, for us, you guys are taking over at 4 p.m. I don't have to worry about it. When my day is over, I can pick up my kids. And I think a lot of that is, just a work-life balance, and having these trainings and making sure that your team's buying into it, and that you're going through these systems and processes. Once you have those set, it just makes it a little easier to sleep at night for sure.
Yeah, definitely. One of the greatest marketers of all time, Seth Godin, says, people like us do things like this. And he's got it as simplified as it can possibly be. And I think that, to what you guys are talking about here is you've really shown by leading and you've said, if you work at Epic Concrete Coatings, you're looking for ways to improve yourself. And we're definitely going to do this. It's something about who we are. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's us. That's really good.
Yeah, and one thing I was thinking about last night when I got home, I was texting our sales team. Everybody is pretty fired up. It kind of reminded me of leaving our dealer meeting at the end of the year, where you're so overwhelmed with information, but you almost can't wait to get off the plane. And the first thing you want to do is just go straight to your office and you want to get to work, right? And it wasn't just necessarily how it was going to impact our sales staff. Originally that was my goal. I'm going to bring them in. Maybe we can tweak a few things. Our sales team is already performing really well. But it wasn't, last night when I was thinking about it, it wasn't just about the personal touches that it's going to give to them, but how it's going to resonate with our whole team, right? So I think one thing that Fitz said that was pretty impactful today for our team is like you have to think of your sales meetings, each week or bi-weekly is like your NSLI, right? Are we creating $5,000 worth of value in the 1 to 2 hours that we're blocking off for our sales schedules? And that just had me thinking all morning, right? I'm like, probably not. in my opinion. Sales tends to get repetitive. And I think just giving your team a little bit of encouragement to try some new things, even if that's just having Fitz come in and do some training, share some fresh ideas. I think that's what our team needed, and I know it fires everybody up. So it's always nice once it gets a little bit repetitive in the middle of the season, just to give them a little extra push. So,
yeah, I was told, I can't remember who shared it with me, but they said a well-run company is a boring company.
Yeah.
And there's something to be said about that for the stability of the employees. Employees appreciate knowing what to expect.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so there is definitely repetition in any job that we take on. I think a lot of the entrepreneurs like to be the entrepreneur because every day's different.
Right.
Kind of got some like high energy people going, I can't do the same thing every day. And so, Justin, you and many other business owners are always out there looking for the next thing. It's pretty important. It's how a business grows.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how do you make the decision to invest in a tool, a resource, or a training opportunity such as with Fitz?
We're pretty grateful for everybody that we have in our network, right? So I wouldn't say that I'm the first to adapt a lot of these things. I will say I think I may have been the first one to reach out about Fitz once that came out. I fired an email back that night because I knew that's what we needed, right? We invest in our installers, whether that's certified training classes. We just had Pentek out this year just because we added a couple trailers in each market. They'll actually be out in a couple weeks to do our South Dakota. But I think it shows something to your team too that you're investing in them and you care about their career and their opportunity and their growth, which I think is super impactful. So, I think that's a big part of it. Other than that, we always got to look for ways to get better, right? And whether that's marketing dollars, whether that's partnering with Powerful, whether that's partnering with, another company that does your SEO, if that's not you guys, things like this is just, I'm not a guy that likes to be stagnant. If I get bored, I'm definitely starting something new or doing something different. I like to create a little bit of my own chaos. So that's for sure.
Yeah, that is a common trait of somebody that grows something like a business. So can you tell me about an example of an investment that paid off significantly? Something, maybe early on in your career or something maybe in the last, year or whatever.
Yeah,
it doesn't need to be powerful media.
Right. Yeah, no, for sure. I would say for me, I really, really enjoyed the sales portion. When we started the business, that's what I did. I wore a ton of hats. I was the one running all the appointments, after I left my job. So when we started this in 2018, it was more of a little bit of an investment for me. My business partner, Brandon, was looking for something else to do. So we're like, hey, we're going to throw our hats in the ring on this a little bit. And so I actually didn't work for our company the first 2 years that it was open. And then after things started running, after work, I was running appointments all the time. And it just got to the point where I'm like, hey, I'm going to go all in on this deal. And that was great. So moving forward from there, once I left there, it was all hands on deck on the sales side. And then once we started growing, now we're hiring our first salesperson. And I loved the sales portion of that because we were learning from other dealers, but I didn't necessarily have the training to be training other people to do sales. I just knew what was working at the time. So I really enjoyed that. But, as I've grown in my career, the business side is really, really what I enjoy of it. So, as I started enjoying the business side more, then it was numbers, right? I became obsessed with numbers, tracking numbers, and I was tracking numbers that I didn't even know what to do with after I tracked them, but I knew them, right? If people asked me numbers, I knew them, but could I improve them? Not necessarily. So Builder Prime, any sort of CRM for that matter, was huge for me. Being able to track analytics, data over more than 12 months, right? You can see what you're doing over last year. Me and Fitz went over a little bit of that yesterday too, just breaking down percentages of your sales and things like that, and just really having a grasp on the numbers. I think for me would have been the biggest investment on that side. Also, everything being electronic is super nice too on that end. So, CRM for me, any analytic number tracking, anything that can help me track numbers for sure.
Yeah, and that's kind of the growth path of an owner, that the only option is growth. You have to go from knocking on the doors and selling it to understanding what the next step is.
Right.
Yeah, we talk to a lot of dealers, and I say, well, what's this number? Well, I have no idea. I'm like, oh, you probably need to know that number. Well, how do I get there? We have customers that we still schedule on a Google Calendar for them because they don't have a CRM.
Right.
And I'm like, you know what? You could make huge strides towards a second trailer or a second salesperson if you got just a little bit more organized.
Right.
Yeah, CRM is a huge deal. And kind of on the other side, one of the biggest things that owners understand is that failure is inevitable. Are there some investments that you've made, maybe even kind of significant to your bottom line, that you go, oh, that was not a good idea?
We did pretty slow growth, so I mean, it's all been pretty thought out, but we've definitely made some mistakes along the way, trusting some people with some marketing, not understanding how to read the contracts necessarily, maybe getting caught in those for 180 days that you have to pay, and they don't really provide anything for you, and the guy doesn't answer his phone afterwards. That's significant. I would say that's definitely over 5 figures that I did that a few years ago, which hurts when you're a small company, but it's one of those things, learning from mistakes, which I think another thing, the great part of the Pentek world, if you're newer coming into it, you can make some phone calls and you can figure out which directions not to go pretty quick. We were pretty young of Pentek when we came in, so I didn't necessarily have all the contacts at that point. So we made all of our own mistakes, that's for sure. So, but happy to help anybody else that to try to avoid those. But
it's funny, Jay. You asked that question, and I'm not surprised to hear that that Justin hasn't had that many, big mistakes. Right? We got to make them to get better. Right? You got to try to break things that are working to rebuild them and make them a little bit better as well too. But I think it goes to Justin does know his numbers. In the numbers that he doesn't know, he wants to understand even more, and like, how do we use and pull this number to make that number bigger and that kind of thing. And Justin alluded to wearing a lot of hats, right, or all of the hats at a certain point in time. And I think that's part of it too. Is like when Justin knows his numbers the way he does, or at least has the curiosity about a number he doesn't understand, it helps to point out, hey, like, this is not my strength. This is what I need to. This is where I need to go invest, right? Either it's me personally or company or whatever it is, and that's a really great trait. There's not maybe not a lot of owners that know it that well, and/or will admit it even when they discover it, kind of thing. Because hey, I don't want to pay somebody else to do this because I can talk about it. But you realize how spread thin you are when you're wearing all those hats, if you're paying attention to numbers the way that Justin is.
Yeah, and just to add on that a little bit, Brandon, my business partner, he's always ran the installation side, right? So I help hire and fire. I obviously do the payroll and things like that. I sit through the meetings, but I haven't really had to deal a whole lot with the installation side as much as he has, for sure. But moving forward, when I was answering all of our messages, setting all of our appointments, and doing all of those things, the first thing I knew that I needed for a key hire was an office manager, right? So, and I realized that when we were going through Powerful, especially when you're gold mining your leads and you're doing those sorts of things. Sorry, my dog's running by here. Start gold mining your leads, you realize how much money's sitting in front of you that's in your CRM that you physically don't have the time into your day to go capture, right? And that was really, really eye-opening for me this year. I know that we sat through your spiel that you gave, Jay, and that day I went in and relayed out all of our Facebook, and then we contacted you guys. I'm like, hey, we got to dive into this. And the amount of leads that are sitting in your CRM today that you can go out and capture and set those appointments, super eye-opening. And having somebody, once you're doing that sort of gold mining and you're going through all these old leads, you really got to have somebody that's willing to spend the time to go through it and keep them all organized, right? Calling them one day doesn't do you much good.
Yeah, I have team members, and one of their favorite things to do is send me screenshots of appointments they booked from a customer from 2022.
Yeah.
And they've been using ChatGPT to find creative ways to reach out to people that are, it's a 3-year-old conversation, And I have a girl that works for me that I get them pretty regularly. She's like, got another one. And it's some creative way to say, hey, it's been a while, and then like laugh emoji. Did you ever get your garage floor taken care of? I'd love to get that taken care of today.
Right.
I was working, sometimes I actually get my hands dirty these days, and I was working on a page down in Phoenix. And I looked at the conversation with the lady, and it was 2023. And she had asked for her front steps, her patio, and her garage. And, we always use first names, make it personal. Hey, my name's Jay with Galaxy Concrete Coatings. I can't remember her name. Stacy, it looks like it's been a while since we last chatted. Are you still interested in getting this project done? And the lady, I just laughed. She texted back, this must be a God thing, because I literally thought an hour ago I should reach out to somebody and get my floor coated.
Yeah,
and I got her within an hour of her going, I should do this. And we all know speed to lead is a thing, right?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
What's creepy about that, though, is Jay's actually listening to all of the conversations across the country, so he just knew that.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, I have an AI brain in my office listening to everyone.
Yeah, exactly.
I got big connections. So let's talk a little bit about culture, Justin. I'd like to know kind of how you have developed your organization, and these businesses. You've got guys show up in the morning, get in a truck, and leave, and they come back maybe at the end of the day. They're tired, they're dirty, they're ready to go home. How do you manage that culture, and you make sure everybody knows that we're all going in the same direction?
Yeah, I think a lot of it's just communication, right? Making sure that you're having touch points with them. Our crews start pretty early, so our crews start at 7 a.m. I go into the office before 7 a.m. Every day that I can. It's not every day anymore. It was before I had 3 children, but once you triple how many kids you have, it gets a little bit tougher. So. But I try to get in there in the morning, touch base with the guys. If they're there in the evening, a lot of times we do travel a pretty large area around here. So a lot of times they're back a little bit later, but I think communications is the big one. And then, we all know we got to make hay when the sun shines here in North Dakota. So the summers are busy, but we try not to schedule any installs on Friday. We use that as our makeup day for rain days, just for a little work-life balance as well. So, a few times a summer we try to get together, whether that's going to sweet shots or going golfing, trying to do a few outings. I'm not going to lie to you, it gets a little bit harder once you have 2 locations. My home base is Fargo, and I got an operations manager out in Sioux Falls, so he does a very fantastic job out there, taking care of the installation side of the business, and then just with the one sales guy. So I touch point with him quite a bit. Still talk with our office or our operations coordinator all the time out there, so he's just doing a fantastic job, but I also make pretty frequent trips down there. So
do you do an all hands meeting, like everybody, production, sales, everybody?
So we have in our Fargo office, we haven't done all hands just with the distance between our 2 offices, but last year we gave everybody a Thursday, Friday off of work. We got everybody up here from the Sioux Falls office, put them all up in hotels, cut everybody's work week short. And I know asking a lot of times, we don't want to ask for their time on a Friday, because if they stay overnight, they got to go home on a weekend. So we did a Thursday, Friday. We had a party bus pick up everybody in the morning. We went out. I reserved a back room at a golf course, and then we reserved the golf course for a few hours, just a rural one that I grew up on. So they made us lunch. They did the whole gamut. We had prizes and stuff like that. So got the whole team together, got out golfing for the day, and that was fantastic. So,
yeah, that's awesome. Do you have any like mission, vision, values type of stuff that you have presented to the team?
So we just started getting a little bit more into that. We were actually talking about that a little bit in our training today. We do have like our missions and values. Our sales team, we kind of developed that inside of our office. As far as the installation side, I think that's the next thing we're working towards. With a little bit more rapid growth this year, we've had a lot of training. whether that's Pentek and just getting guys on board and trying to get everybody up to speed as we're adding all the work. So definitely on our docket here for this quarter is to start involving a little bit more as a whole company. Just like I said, a little bit more difficult. We try to get out and beat the heat in the morning, so installation crews starting about an hour. So they're usually gone by the time our office staff gets in, or our sales team and our office manager. So,
Yeah.
And Jay, one of the things I love is they actually are in their sales appointments. They share their values with the customer, right? Man, that's powerful, right? Like, hey, this means enough to us that we want to share it with a stranger at this point too. This is who we are. It's a powerful statement to have at the beginning of an appointment when you're going through your slide deck and your presentation with the homeowner, for sure. So it's good stuff, man.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I found a lot of like my own team's morale changed when I introduced values to a regular like rhythm within the team. And twice a year they have to listen to me talk about the values of our company.
yeah.
But it really does go back to the people like us do things like this statement from Seth Godin, where, hey, if you're a part of this team, these are the behaviors you'll carry, and you'll translate that into the community. And yeah, very good.
Yeah, and I think it's important, everybody that's wearing your logo every day, that's going out to clients' houses, this is the community that you're helping, whether you're sponsoring a local home builders association golf event, or any of this, from your sales team to the guys that are out installing somebody's sidewalk or patio each day. If in our company, if we're wearing that logo out, we got to have respect for that. We definitely want to make sure that we're showing respect to every homeowner, that we're leaving properties nicer than we were there. And I think, as a team, like our callback rates and things like that kind of reflect that as well, is we want everybody to have pride in their work, right? And we don't play the huge quantity game here. Quality's always been number one, and we've kind of grown as our quality's grown. So making sure that our quality stays tip top is definitely the most important thing to us. So.
Yeah, I think the name of your company is appropriate.
That's cool.
It's epic.
Man, for sure.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, I like it. Do you have anybody on your team that you would kind of like to maybe brag on briefly? Somebody that you've seen come through the ranks, somebody that's latched on to the vision that you and your business partner have set for Epic. Maybe you've been able to offer promotions or something like that.
Yeah,
don't need to use a name if you don't want to. But.
Yeah, no, and I don't mind using names. I know that our whole office knows that we're proud of them. So I think, somebody that we brought on last year, so we have Hallie in our office. She's our office manager. I had never had an office manager before. And, I didn't realize how many hats that technically wears, right? Originally, I'm like, okay, you're going to answer the phone. You're going to set some appointments, right? You're going to set the sales guys' appointments. She's definitely stepped up, whether it's events, running events, being in contact with our sales guys, helping with the powerful side of it with your team. A lot of the stuff that we do that's not just marketing per se, but yeah, all the BIA events and stuff that we can go to like that. She does a really stellar job on that. And just to follow up with these clients, right? So when you're wearing a lot of hats and you're trying to grow your business and trying to get the revenue to flow so that you're able to hire somebody like that, you really don't realize how big of an impact it has to have somebody have their day dedicated to all of that stuff, right? And to be frank, it's all the stuff that's kind of pain in your rear every day that you put off, and then at the end of the week you go, oh, it's Friday, I was supposed to do this on Monday, I better get it done, right? And it's just the small things like that you don't realize, it might not fall that big of importance on your scale, but realistically, it's just as important as everything else you're doing. So she's grabbed the reins with that. She loves talking on the phone. I had been burnt out after 5 years of talking on the phone all day and answering all of our phone calls. So that's it's a fresh feeling in the office. So that's been very, very great. And then hats off to both our sales guys in the office too. Genuinely our whole team. So. Everybody's kind of been stepping up. We've grown at a little bit more rapid rate here the last couple of years, and really without everybody there, we couldn't do it. So,
Sure. Well, can we talk a little bit about your time with Matt?
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that all right? Sure. So you brought Matt in for training. Can you tell me a little bit about your experience or maybe some feedback you've gotten from your sales guys over the last couple of days? Maybe
Yeah,
what you
so-
thought it would be and what it turned out to be. Just kind of, it's open.
Yeah, and like I said, we signed up right away for it. I had the chance to meet Fitz when we were out at the dealer meeting last year. I think it was very briefly, so he probably didn't remember me because he was trying to dodge the bullets of the financing questions, or the easy pay questions as we call it. So moving into it, I knew that he knew about that a lot, and with the 0% for 24 months that Pentek's been offering, and I knew that with that going to be going, potentially towards the wayside, however, that's going to go, is that we still wanted to offer something because he quite frankly, he was correct. It made a giant impact in our business this year. We were doing about 30% in finance jobs. Which we didn't hit the mark what we were looking for, but we wanted to be able to keep that going. So a lot of it for me, selfishly, is that I got to have a couple onboarding calls with Matt prior, and I had asked him prior, I'm like, hey, I know this only goes till noon this one day, but do you think just me and you could sit down? And a lot of it was just tracking, NSLI, tracking true closing rates, That was the big thing. There's a lot of people that track their numbers differently, and I was just, my head turns about it all the time because I'm like, am I doing it the right way or am I the one doing it the wrong way, right? But as far as our team goes, they were very, very excited. I think anytime that you can have somebody with the experience that Matt does come in and you get his full attention for a couple days, it's pretty special. So hats off to Matt. We had a great week. I know that moving in to this weekend, I am currently going to be moving, but I wish that I could sit at my office all weekend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, cool. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Matt and I work together quite a bit, and he's got a big heart where he sometimes struggled to say, I don't even want to charge for this because I just like doing it.
Yeah,
And,
yeah. Well, you can
it's always
tell
nice when you find
the
that.
passion
Yeah.
comes out. So that's, and I think, when you have people come in, a lot of, some people that you bring in, or you do Zoom calls, webinars, or what. So, it's always, it's not just based around a whole entire group of people, right? Like he came and made it personal to us for our size business. I mean, we had two salespeople in there, so it was a small room. It was just three of us sitting in the room, right? But how impactful it was just with us three sitting in there was great. And I think for our sales guys to understand too, like I said earlier, sales just it isn't static, right? So what might have worked last year probably isn't working this year, or a portion of it. Our salespeople feel it. They see that our competitors, they're moving up, our competition's moving up. They might be leveling up, and we have to be willing to evolve as well. Otherwise, we're going to be behind the eight ball on that. So I think using some of his strategies that he brought in, and you could just tell our guys, they're like, oh, some of it's just cadence, right? Some things that we've never talked about, cadence of how you're talking, like some of your body language, things like that. Just some real high level stuff that I think, they all got some good nuggets from, and I know that they're going to be taking notes and practicing.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
For the record, Jay, they do a lot. You said at the beginning of this, like Justin and his team do a lot of things really well, right? And I think one of the things that's important, like for me, and I know with you on the powerful media side, that hey, we don't want to change everything you're doing, right? Like that you're here for a reason. You're able to invest this money for a reason. You must be doing some things really, really well, if not exactly right? But can we identify some of those like little nuances or holes, or like, hey, we just changed this a little bit, now all of a sudden, what was really good is off to the races, kind of thing. And man, watching his guys, and again, it's cool because it's a small room, so we can kind of go into maybe a little bit more specific detail for each person, as opposed to being maybe generic with a room full of 100 people or something along those lines. And watching his guys, the second, we're talking about something and like I say something that's like unique or different than how they hear it. Like at one point I was like, more the pens are going to catch on fire. That's how fast they're writing, right? But it's cool. We're not talking about overhauling their entire process. We're talking about like, hey, what if you just tweak this little thing this way? What do you think it's going to elicit in a response from a homeowner? You can see their wheels start turning. So again, they're just taking that idea of like a little bit better each day is going to get us a whole long way at the end of the year kind of thing. So, and I think that that's always an important thing too. Like, whenever I've gone into a place, like the sales reps usually have like all right, who's this guy, and like, what are we going to have to change? And change is like sales reps' favorite thing on the planet. And I think when you go in and you go, hey guys, like you're doing things really, really well, and all of a sudden it's like, whoa, wait a minute, okay, and like, but what if we did one of these other things? So, one of the things Justin and I talked about when we were there and with the team was we all go to these conferences, right, where Justin and I met earlier this year, and we walk away with that, with a notebook full of like 30 pages of notes, right, and I was as guilty of it as anybody else. I'd get on the flight on the way home from wherever I was going, and I'd be like, man, I suck at this because look at all of these great things that everybody else is doing, and I'm not doing any of them. I got to get off the plane and do all of them, right? Which is impossible. You just can't do all of those things. And the reality is like, I don't suck at doing this stuff. Like, I'm pretty darn good at it. But if I took one of these things off of one of the 30 pages of notes that I took, that probably don't even make sense to me at this point because I'm so tired writing all those notes. But if I just took one of them, could I get 1 or 2% better, right? And it's kind of that like relentless pursuit of just a touch better, right? Perfection's not attainable, but if you're striving for it and you're doing it one step at a time, you're going to get darn close.
Yeah, and I think that's the big thing for me, right? Is that I talk to a lot of people, and that whether they're struggling or whether they're doing good, and they're throwing around the idea of doing some of these trainings, right? And everybody puts a cost to it, and it's can you afford not to do it? Is the way that I look at it, right? We're investing in all these different areas, whether it's investing in new equipment or you're upgrading this, upgrading that. I mean, can we really afford not to invest in our team as the competition grows? And I think the answer is no, right? Like, if you're gonna go into commercial real estate or something, right? You look at an ROI. Well, realistically, Matt, he showed me a piece of paper and he's like, oh, if your closing rate went up by 1%, look at this number. And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, if I offered you $50 bill and you handed me 100, I would say yes every single time. So I think that's super important. I think, with Matt's training, it was a little bit deeper than that, right? Like, so I run our sales staff, but it was what I got away out of it too, right? Now, not only while we're changing this, what can I measure, right? What can I measure, and what can we improve on, and what can we implement? And I think that was the big thing, is Matt never sat in the room and goes, hey, you guys should change this. You should change this. You should change this. It was more bringing a lot of fresh thoughts, and like one page on our Engage presentation we spent 15 minutes on, and our guys were mind blown. They're like, oh, I never really thought about pitching, these different pricing deals like you're doing there, and they're jotting down notes. And then that gives me something to go over, because in the back of my head, I'm going, okay, we have all these things. We can make some minute changes and some tweaks here. But at the end of the day, I still have a laundry list of stuff that I can make sure to build our sales meetings, like you say, with an NSLI. That's $5,000 worth of value for those guys for the 1 and 2 hours that they're giving up of their time. When we have those. And I think that's what's important, is that we can keep that door revolving, and we can make these minute changes, and everybody bought in on it, right? It only made sense. Like, some of the stuff, it's like, yeah, we're going to change that right away. It's just how we say it, right? Why wouldn't we do that? So very impactful, talking with our sales guy. Matt went to go ride with my sales guy, Jordan, and I was talking to Jake before he left. We were having lunch, and he's like, man, I might have had one of the worst months I've ever had last month, and it wasn't that bad. But he's like, I'm going to have the best month I've ever had in August. That's awesome. And I'm like, and he goes, and it starts tomorrow. I go, you bet. Yeah. So, and that's just awesome to hear, right? It's just lighting that fire. I think that's one of the important parts too, right? Is why be stagnant? Even if you're doing good, there's always room for improvement.
Mm-hmm. And there's a little bit of excitement that comes after, like, even just being exposed to like the same thing in a different way. We talked about that today too, right? That sales meetings have a value associated with them. Marketing meetings have a value. Like, if people are being pulled off the phone, those are appointments that they can't be setting. And if they're being pulled out of the field in sales, they can't be selling and generating, the amount of dollars. So you take the number of your team and by your average NSLI, and like, hey, that's got to be the value of this appointment. And it's funny. It's like, when you look at that, right? There are, Jay, you and I have talked about this, right? As a manager, you've committed to a life of like saying the same 4 things over and over and over, and trying to find creative ways to say, thing 1 4 different ways. But we talked about it today, right? Like, the best players in the world still do the basic things, right? Mm-hmm. They hit off a tee, they catch, footballs out of the jug machine, right? Like, They do all of these things, but that's what makes them the best in the world. So like if you're not practicing in your sales meetings, you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, right? If all it is you up there reading numbers and talking about we're this far behind goal, or like you guys got to get your paperwork right, like that's not a valuable meeting, and
Right.
your sales reps are probably tuning out. But hey, look, we're going to do this for a short period of time, and then we're going to come in and work. Like this is a workout session. That's what it is, right? So be prepared to come in here and role play. Be prepared to come in here and talk and challenge the idea of how we're doing it now versus how maybe somebody else is doing it right now and is a little more successful than you. So
Right.
I think that's a really big thing is, and I think Justin runs a good meeting based off of what I can tell and see and listening to the guys. Like I don't think anybody rolls their eyes about having to come in the office. That happens a lot, by the way. I cannot tell you how many organizations I've been in where sales reps are like, well, this is the check the box session for, the week that, our manager or our owner gets to say that, hey, yeah, we did have a sales meeting and met with them. And, it's really kind of wild when you really put the focus on like, hey, the value here is like one nugget that's going to get you one more sale next week. That's the goal, right? And when you do that, all of a sudden, guys aren't really upset about coming to the office, right? They're looking forward to it. Maybe not totally looking forward to it all the time, but
Yeah. Well, and I know our guys look forward to it, but at the same time, I felt the exact opposite way of that. I was like, man, I'm blowing it on these. Like, we could be having much more productive meetings, right? And not saying that we're doing a bad job, right? But that's what it goes back to. Even if you're doing things that are working and it's going well, you just get these 3 little simple ideas, and you're like, man, I could easily implement those 3 things in my next sales meeting, right? Why not do that, right? If there's things that we can practice and improve, and I think just putting a value to that, I think it is super important, right? We're not wasting people's time. I mean, that's the biggest portion of it, right? You got to get something out of those meetings for sure.
Yeah,
Just out
I
of
run a
curiosity-
meeting.
Go
ahead.
Go ahead, Jay. I'm sorry, buddy.
I was going to say I run a meeting, and I've handed it off to Dylan on my team, but every single Tuesday, my team has to show up.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very repetitive, but it reminds everybody that we're going in that direction, and we're all going there together.
Mm-hmm.
And I was talking to one of my top performers, and I said, I almost feel bad that you have to show up, And he goes, oh, no, Jay, this is the right thing to do. I'm glad to be a part of it.
Yeah. That's why he's a
And
top
it's-
performer.
Yep.
And have
it's
the
nice to hear
attitude for
those
it
things.
too, right?
Yep. Yeah, for sure.
The reality of it too is if the whole team's getting a little bit better, that's going to make that top performer a little bit better because hey, they're chasing you, right? And yeah, but I don't want to like be beating everybody by a landslide. Like I want to beat like the next person by like one more whatever it is you're measuring, right? And I don't want to do it because we all had a really bad month. I want to do it because like we're all kicking butt right now for sure. So
Right. Yeah, it's definitely more fun to celebrate the wins, right? Especially as a team. You get above your goals, that's when it starts getting fun. You don't let off the gas, that's the whole point. Let's see how far we can take this thing. And having people that buy into it just as much as you do it's super important. And it makes you feel a lot better about it because you don't feel like you're barking on people's trees all the time, right? You know that they're doing the right thing, and I think instilling that in your sales culture is the best. Is that when you walk out of there that day, you know that they're doing their follow-ups, you know that they're doing their stuff. You can call them at any moment, and the things that you have talked about as a team, is everybody as a whole is still working towards one goal, even though we have individual goals, right? So, yeah, I think it's very important.
Yeah.
Justin, I'm curious if during our time the last couple of days here, was there, I guess, anything that we did or talked about that was maybe like a surprise, like topic or piece of information or anything along those lines? Like everybody has a certain expectation of what's going to happen during these training sessions, and is there anything in there that might be like, hey, this was actually cool and I didn't expect it at all?
Yeah, I think day one, just how we started the meeting, I think, not so much, I wouldn't say like a surprise, but I would say what we got out of it though, right? When we're talking about DISC for clients, right? We always talk about giving DISC for your employees and figuring out, kind of who everybody is. But, being able to break down the clients, like you said, but we're not prejudging clients, things like that, but what are some flags? How can you act and control that meeting, ways really to run your sales appointment and make it as fruitful as you can, right? There was a lot of information in that I had never been taught or trained on before, and that's when I asked you. I was through my third piece of notebook paper. I'm like, Matt, do we get this deck after you leave? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, thank God, because I got to quit taking notes so I can pay attention here. So yeah, there's so much stuff that I brought to the table that realistically, there's been some repetitive training in the past that we've had, everybody's selling the same product. You're selling the same product every year, but I think it's not just about the product, right? It's about the process. And I think just making sure that that's ever evolving and making sure that you're not behind on that. There's so much great stuff. I would have to look at my notes to tell you where to start with that.
Good stuff.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah, and
I think
the last thing that I have is, even from like a management perspective, right? Like if you're thinking about it just for your team, if you're trying to freshen stuff up, I think I took more notes than anybody in the last 2 days that we've been there. So, what you're going to get out of it as a company as a whole, I think is what's important. I think people should know that, it's not just necessarily for the sales team. If you take a little bit of those nuggets for yourself, whether you're a manager or an owner, you want to put them in a list of importance or things that you want to be able to implement or things that you want to be able to practice and train on. There was a lot of that as well, not just individual. So, yeah, we appreciate it. It's done.
That's good. Well, that was where I was going to go next. You jumped right in and you're like, hey, for those of you that are listening, this is what you pay attention to. Yeah, that's excellent. Well, Justin, it's been a blast having you on here. You can have bragging rights that you were the first Pentek dealer guest on the Fitz and Franson podcast show. We're going places. We're going to be Apple's top 10 in the next 6 months for sure on podcast listens.
I like it.
Maybe that's not true, but it's a goal we have. And any last words, just kind of that a word of advice to other dealers, not even specifically about what your time with Fitz was, just the maybe state of things marketing, state of things sales, just this is what I've done in the last 6 months, and if I could impart some encouragement and wisdom to others that are in the same boat as me, this is what I'd say.
Yeah, going back to it, I think if you don't know how to track your numbers, reach out to somebody that does. Right? There's not that many KPIs that you actually need to track in order to measure stuff to improve stuff. And don't be scared of your numbers. Right? You don't have to sway your numbers or calculate them a different way to try to make it look great. Right? The whole reason that we're tracking the numbers is you only track what you want to improve. Right? So I think knowing your numbers is important. I think especially when you have when you're reaching out to people to do training like Fitz, or even you're going to work with Powerful, you're going to work with anybody that's going to take on anything that involves revenue, right? There's some numbers that you have to track, whether that's, appointment set rate, what you're selling off of a different lead source, what's the revenue produced by that, what's the appointment cost for that. Knowing those numbers so that you're not pulling the rug on stuff too soon just because you don't know the numbers, right? Some of these investments, they might look expensive. Once you run the numbers on them, what is it producing for you? So I'd say get to learn your numbers. Be friends with them.
Yeah. Love spreadsheets.
Yeah.
If our math teachers could see us now, who knew?
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, mine would be surprised, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
Mine too, there's no doubt.
That's good. Yeah, we track a whole lot of things over here too, and it took us a while to figure out what were the right things to track. And I liked your comment earlier at the beginning. You said, man, I tracked numbers. I had data. I didn't even know what to do with it.
Yeah.
But I had the numbers, and we've done that over the years too, where we're like, this number probably matters. And we track it for a while, and we're like, I don't think it actually matters.
Mm-hmm.
On the marketing side, marketers like to give you big numbers. Oh, you reached 300,000 people last month. And you're like, wow, 300,000, but I got 5 leads.
Right.
It's like, those were like 295,000 wrong people.
Right? Yeah. Yeah.
You find 300,000 of the right people.
And that's part of the importance of tracking your numbers too, right? Is that when you're hiring people to do any sort of marketing or thing like that, right? If they're doing a good job. You can kind of put your own, track your numbers on your appointment costs and things like that to know, is it working for your business, right? Yeah, maybe they're getting a ton of traction. Great. Is it producing revenue? That's what we're all here for. So I think, numbers.
Yeah. Cool.
Absolutely.
Matt, any closing words? Should shut this one
Yes.
down.
So, I'll say this, right? And I think that, again, hats off to Justin and investing in his team and investing in growing. Look, there's an old saying, right? If you're not growing, you're dying. And man, oh man, is that true. So when you get comfortable and complacent, I promise you there are competitors that are running real fast to pass you by, and they will leave you in the dust. They might be nice people when, you're all, at a bar or something together, but their goal is to beat you. And if you're at the top of your game, they're coming. And how are you going to make sure the bar continues to raise for everybody else that's trying to catch you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. All right. Well, thanks to our 5 listeners. I'm excited to start.
Now?
Yeah, right.
Matt
New
told me this
record.
was going to be edited. He said,
Yeah.
he bamboozled me into this. So
I'm a hell of a
Yeah.
sales guy.
yeah, I like it. You got me.
Yeah. And if anybody has questions about what Matt did over with Justin loves to talk about what he's doing on his business. And I'm going to speak for you on this, Justin. You take phone calls and you like to support the network. And Matt's always a phone call away as well. And Powerful Media, if you just want to call us and strategize, give us a call. We'll see if we can help you out. And we might not be the right fit for you, but we'll point you in the right direction. So thanks, guys, for showing up today. And everybody have a great weekend.
Yeah, appreciate you, fellas.
Take it easy, guys.
All right.